On today's show, the Detroit Pistons hiring Monty Williams as their next head coach. 6 years, $78.5 million. What'll be the biggest impact of bringing Monty Williams in to be the next head coach of the Pistons? Which players will benefit the most from Monty as their head coach? And what are the expectations going to be like next season for this Pistons team? Are they expected to win games, or is development still priority number one? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Next game, how about Nikola Jokic to score more than 26.5 points? What about Bam Adebayo to have less than 10.5 rebounds? How about Jimmy Butler to have more than 6.5 assists? Or what about Jamal Murray to have less than 3.5 three-pointers made? So what is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy sports, but how does it work? Basically, you pick 2 to 6 players, but they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 25 times back on your money on any entry that you submit. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's the NBA Finals, NFL, MLB, NHL. They've got you covered for everything. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that simple. They're safe. They offer fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. And right now, during the finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. But you have to download the app to find out how. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That means if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Pistons, Ku Khahil. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts, and on YouTube, just search Locked On Pistons. And Ku, the Pistons coming away with a pretty gigantic hire here in Monty Williams as their next head coach. 6 years, $78.5 million. We're going to get into the contract here in just a moment, but let's start off with, what does hiring Monty mean for the direction and the future of the Pistons as an organization?
I don't know if it changes really at this point, we don't even know what exactly their plans are for next year. They haven't really been completely transparent and outgoing about what exactly their goal is and their plan is for next year. We don't know if they're going to go more development still, try to push it a little bit more into winning. We don't really know what their plan is right now. And I don't think the signing of Monty changes whatever their plan was before he hired because of the length of his contract. It makes me believe that he's been given a lot of security, and it makes me feel like that there's not a lot of pressure on him to win immediately because of the length of the contract. He's not going to be forced to have to do that immediately, that's something that they want to kind of build towards. So I don't know if it really is changing anything, but I guess we'll see.
Early in the coaching search, it kind of looked like the Pistons were focusing on some unproven candidates, maybe some guys without necessarily previous head coaching experience, kind of looking at, various assistant pools, that kind of thing. And then they switched up and went with Monty. Why the change up?
Well, nice way to say it is that they opened their eyes a little bit, but a lot of us in the Pistons community were not huge fans of what the pool that they were bringing back. Charles Lee's fine, but if they wanted to go the assistant coach route, a lot of us felt like that at least. They said multiple times they would turn every stone. It didn't feel like they were turning every stone. It felt like they were only interviewing assistant coaches that have never been coaches before. Or head coaches before. They weren't interviewing any of the top candidates on the market, any of the top former head coaches on the market. And then, of course, they had the whole Kevin Ollie thing, who just signed with Brooklyn as the assistant coach. So we're happy that they went with Monty Williams. I think he was one of, if not the best coach on the market at the time of their hiring. But there's a whole story of how that ended up happening. He said no at first, and then Tom Gores, the Pistons owner, went out there and was like, yeah, how about no? How about we keep going for him? Flies him out to his house in California, offers him obviously the biggest contract in NBA history for a coach. He's the highest paid coach in the NBA. That's going to be hard to turn down. So they really wanted Monty Williams. It seems like Tom Gores, the Pistons owner, really wanted Monty Williams more than anybody, and they went and made it happen.
And breaking down kind of the factors on that deal, right? $78.5 million, 6 years. It does look like Monty is going to have kind of a lot of runway, I guess, to work with over these next few years. It doesn't seem like that's not a contract you hand out with the expectation of, okay, if you're not winning in a year or two, you're going to get canned. How much credit does ownership get then for kind of securing this and making this deal happen with Monty to kind of identify, hey, he's our guy. We really want him. We're going to go out there and get him no matter how much it costs.
I mean, the Pistons ownership, there's some things you can say about him outside of the Pistons organization. There's some things maybe he's involved in that a lot of people aren't very happy about. He shouldn't really be involved. Like, this is not talking about him as the person or what he's doing outside the Pistons organization. But Tom Gores has been very willing to put the money where his mouth is. He spent a lot of money to go get Stan Van Gundy, I believe, in 2014. He spent a lot of money to go convince Dwayne Casey to become their head coach after winning Coach of the Year and then getting fired by Toronto. He spent a lot of money to get him here, and then he spent a lot of money to get Monty Williams here. So Tom Gores, if nothing else, I mean, I feel like he kind of does what you want your team owner to do: spend money when he needs to, be willing to spend money and want the team to win. Obviously, the team hasn't been great over the last decade plus since they traded Chauncey for Allen Iverson back in 2009. But Tom Gores has been willing to spend money. He spent money. We've seen it happen multiple times, and he did it here at Monty Williams. He definitely, it sounds like, at least according to the reports and how everything went down, that he definitely was like the biggest factor in making this happen for Monty Williams.
Ku, who on the Pistons benefits the most in your eyes from hiring Monty Williams, from bringing him in the door?
I think it's every single one of the Piston guards. When you talk about Cade Cunningham, obviously, their franchise guy, you got Jane Ivey, obviously, and even their backup, Killian Hayes. I think the thing about Monty Williams that makes all of us Pistons, everyone in the Pistons community, excited is that he's coming from a spot in Phoenix where everything was built around two guards. Their two guards were their like main focus. Now, obviously, they traded for KD, and that kind of changed things for 13 games, I think it was, that they played together. But for the majority of his time there with CP and D Book, their offense was focused around two guards that really, they ran everything through them, and everything happened because of them. And I don't know if there's many teams in the NBA that do that. The Pistons are one of them. Their core is Cade Cunningham and Jane Ivey. And I've watched a lot of videos talking about and breaking down the Suns offense, and just the ways that Monty found ways to, put his guards and have everything run through them and put them in the best positions possible to really, space the floor out and put them in the spots that they need to be at. I think that's what's going to help them the most, the Pistons, the most when Monty gets here. So Cade, I feel like, operates in a lot of the same areas that D Book does and CP does, in the mid-range, high post area, getting downhill, picking his spots kind of thing. Not explosive athlete or anything like that, but picks his spots, that kind of thing with Cade. And then Jane Ivey, I think he can help with him, obviously. And then even Killian Hayes, someone who kind of operates in the same spots as CP3 kind of likes to operate, in the mid-range as well. I feel like there's going to be a lot of comfortability there, and I think Monty will do a great job of trying to put them in the best position possible and elevate them like he did for Devin Booker, like we saw him take those big steps over the last few years with Monty.
I know you hit on this a little bit earlier on, but, with the expectations kind of going into next season or navigating this offseason and moving forward for the Pistons, I mean, even if you don't really know necessarily what the expectations are going to look like right now, what should the expectations look like? What do you think would be the right direction or the right approach to, say, next season with Monty Williams now in that head coaching position?
I think the best approach would be to be patient and continue to let your young guys develop. If the Pistons young guys were in a position where they had shown immediate improvement and looked like they were ready to play actual winning basketball, not just, good basketball for their age, but like actual NBA winning basketball, then I'd be okay. Like, okay, you want to go out and try to push for some wins this year? Okay, that makes sense. They're ready. The Pistons young guys aren't ready. They're franchise guys coming off an injury, didn't even get to play his second year. So I don't feel like any of those guys are ready. They have another top pick in the draft. They're all incredibly young, 21 years and under. They went and traded for James Wiseman, who's a guy they traded for knowing that he needs reps if he's going to become anything. Jalen Duren was just the youngest player in the entire NBA. Like, this team is just, they're not ready yet to try to, really win a ton of games. Now, they won 17 games last year. I think the expectation should be to try to get around 33 wins next year, because the idea would be like, if Cade actually played, maybe he gives you like 5 more wins, and last year actually would have been like a 22, 23 maybe wins. And now that, instead of like a 16, 17 win jump, you're really looking at like a 10, 10-game jump. So I think 33 wins should be the bar, trying to fight for the play-in game, not make it, but kind of fight for it should be the bar. Kind of be the example I've used in the podcast is be next year's Orlando Magic. Like this past year, Orlando Magic, you saw clear progression from a lot of their guys. You see the core, you see the future, you see the vision, you see what their foundation is. You know that they're a team coming up because they've shown improvement, and they were fighting for a lot of the year to try to make the play-in. They didn't eventually make it, but everyone I feel like is high on Orlando Magic because of what they showed, despite the fact they didn't make the play-in. Basically, the Pistons next year need to be that. That should be the expectation for them next year.
How will Monty Williams as head coach change the Detroit Pistons? For all that and more, you'll have us covered over at Locked On Pistons. Ku, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Appreciate you.